So, since we had finally gone over it in the anime, it's about time that I cover this. Now, the thing is, instead of the regular approach, I just more so want to go about what I loved in the arc. I've always put this as one of my favorite arcs in Part 5 and probably high up there when it comes to all the JoJo arcs. And on why Bruno in this arc, for one, shines aggressively hard. This is with us coming off of the White Album fight where we had talked a lot about Resolve previously with the fight between Gyachao, or Gyachao, that's how Risotto says it, and Giorno and Mista. So in this arc, we get a view on Bruno's resolve and how strong his passion burns to follow through with his beliefs. And I believe that I talked a bit of this over with friends and just looking at the arc alone, and it came down to the conclusion that the boss is just mostly everything that Bruno hates and more. If we're looking through the part as through a protagonist and antagonist focus more than anything, the boss is more of an antagonist to Bruno than Giorno, honestly. Especially with how intertwined Bruno's history is into the mix of everything we know now. So to see him go as hard as he did in the arc was amazing. And it's also not that crazy to see Bruno go as hard as he did because obviously he's not no support character. I'm pretty sure he's a deuteragonist. Like, it'd make the most sense that he is. And he had even gone against his own approaches towards the danger of the boss and instead dead charged the boss before finding workarounds to potentially whatever he had. Also, the iconic "you'll never understand how I feel" is just amazing. Personally, I was more of a fan in the manga because I kind of gave it like this headcanon idea that, oh, there's going to be some powerful music or something going on, like huge sound effects going on with it. But there was a lot of ambience, so that's how that happened. And we actually gone back to see the past of Bruno and see this understanding child grow up the way that he did, and just to see everything that happened and what he had gone against to protect his own people. It was amazing. See, this is why I can resonate with Abakio when he just follows Bruno around everywhere. My heart had gone out to Bruno so hard before, but this arc solidified him for me when first reading, just all in general. I was just like, man, yeah, no, this is locked on. I love Bruno. Now, onto the mystery of the boss. A huge thing that I loved here is that the viewer here is as unaware of what's going on as Bruno and the rest of the gang are. Well, except that we know what the wrath of the boss looks like because we had seen what had happened with Sorbet and Gelato. He's a very brutal man, but I don't think the group knows about what we know, so they wouldn't expect the most going in, but the fact that he's the boss, they'll be like, okay, so we should probably watch out. He's probably worse than everybody that we had gone against, potentially. Going into this with an optimistic approach was actually just fully just cut short because Bruno had actually told everyone to stay on their toes, and that counted us too. Then we have this ominous environment. The sound effects in the manga had shown us that everything is going to be very eerie, but in the anime you have this unsettling silence with the anime just having, it was just amplifying everything there. And Trish is just completely unsettled in all of this. And it made a lot of sense too because it's a huge shift in life. Bruno had tried to make her think about everything in a better light, being optimistic, and instead of looking at Trish while this was happening. And it was interesting because it's just like, you were telling the other group to not be that I was optimistic about this. And he had his eye on the elevator, and so did we. So when he had turned around to see Trish not there and with the severed hand on his own, everyone's in shock. You, me, Bruno, Araki probably himself was just like, oh shit, this is juicy. Like he shocked himself. And the whole thing that, oh yeah, the boss wasn't trying to reunite with her. He wanted to cover this and just take her out himself. Who is this boss? This complete opposite of Bruno. What type of person is this? And then when Bruno thought he had the drop on him and getting filled with his drive, he was just like, oh man, it's over for the boss. And he calls him out. The music does not even help Bruno or his defense team, but man, this interaction right here, this is that stuff. It's amazing. Now, there's other things that I loved here, like the gang separation from, well, the gang. Trish experiencing her own life-changing situation that made her one with the group. And I wanted to elaborate on that, but I think that would be technically spoilers because that'd be future stuff. The fight itself, which is pretty interesting, but I want to have one last point of focus. We find ourselves in the court of the Crimson King. I love the anime's adaptation of the boss and King Crimson first official entrance. The boss's voice echoing throughout the room, wondering where Bruno had went wrong. Though people crossing him isn't anything new. It's just that Bruno's reason was new and genuinely odd to him. And it was just like, oh my goodness, because he views everything through the gangsters that he approaches. He doesn't see gangsters having these type of morals that Bruno does, and it's just completely different to him. But his reasons don't matter. It's the fact that Bruno's challenging him. He's challenging the throne, and that's the end of him. This shot alone gives so much to the grand scheme of the boss. Still masked in mysteriousness, shrouded by the shadows, unable to be contested. God, look at that pose. Wait, that was bars. Wait. But what I love the most out of everything that had happened here is that actually, in the end of it all, Bruno had completely humbled the boss. Even with an ability that Bruno himself calls invincible, he knows that the boss himself isn't and can be contested mentally. This man is not immortal. And this is something we'll get later on. I can't elaborate too much on it now. I'm sorry. But man, this is that foreshadowing shit. I love that. This is the Bruno that we know. And we aren't too familiar with the one that just rushes in there. But we know the Bruno that's able to bounce back after any bad interaction and still somehow come out the one as victorious. So even with all this mystery surrounding the boss, this ominous energy going throughout the room, this really unsettling silence that I love, and the really crunchy sound effects that really got to me because I was like, ugh. Victory is always possible. And it's up to fate on where we end up. Oh my goodness, man, that. Thank you all for watching. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really have anything planned for this outro part. I've been streaming.
Oh, yo. Dummy thick.
And I'm on Twitter. That's about it. People ask me like, yo, why aren't you out there uploading in these streets? I'm kind of like sort of stockpiling on stuff. I'm going to PAX East, so if people want to see me there, that'll be cool. Shit, that was a good arc, and hopefully I'll get to talk about more stuff that connects from this, because there's a lot of foreshadowing that this arc in general gives that I do want to elaborate later on. Probably when we get to those other arcs, I'll be able to go back to this one and just like, oh man, this more stuff connecting over, yada yada yada, and all that type of shit. But yeah, so thank you all for watching. Really means a lot. I don't know if I showed a clip of the stream already.
Dummy thick.
But yeah. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.